Welcome back to Christian Questions on News Talk 104.7 WXLM. Our subject this morning, what about abortion? To be a part of our program, call 860-442-9956. That's 442-WXLM.
And Jonathan, really what we're saying at this point in this program is, what about life? What about protecting the sanctity, the sacredness of life? And we're looking at a few scriptures that really give us an indication of how important life is in that, what Larry has always referred to, in that preborn state. So let's look at Isaiah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Isaiah 49:1.
Listen, O isles, unto me, and hearken, ye people from far. The Lord hath called me from the womb. From the bowels of my mother hath he made mention of my name.
So there's an importance in that unborn life in terms of Isaiah, because he's saying, the Lord has called me from even before I was born. He destined me to do a specific work, and here I am trying to accomplish that which he sent me to do. There's great power in that, because he's saying that life, preborn life, was of great value and had a destiny to fulfill. Next one.
Jeremiah 1:4-5. Now the word of the Lord came to me, saying, Before I formed you in the womb I knew you, and before you were born I consecrated you. I appointed you a prophet to the nations. Again,
Jeremiah. There's an interesting pattern here. You've got these prophets who are saying that God had destined them to do a work even before they were born. And there's something special about that. And what I think, Jonathan, what that tells us is of the great value in that preborn state.
Absolutely.
And I want to relay another story, another experience that I think is important in this whole matter. A number of years ago, I had a very dramatic experience along these lines. One night, my wife and I went to bed, and in the middle of the night, we got a phone call. And it was a young lady. She was I believe, in her early 20s at the time, who was distraught. She was pregnant. She wasn't married. And the next morning, she had scheduled to go and have an abortion. And she just wanted to talk to somebody. And so we talked for a number of hours through that night about her situation. And we talked about the pros and cons. And I was trying to not tell her what to do, but to get her to find what to do by finding what is right in her own heart. And so we talked about, we did a lot of talking about carrying a pregnancy through, and then adoption, because she was not in a situation to be a mother. She just wasn't. And so I knew that here we had maybe this 2 or 3 hour conversation, whatever it was, and in the balance hangs this unborn life. And hanging up the phone, I really didn't know where she was, because you have all of those things pulling at you. You have, okay, I have a sense of what's right, but it's going to ruin my life. Or think of the ridicule I'm going to get. Or all of those things piling up. Well, it was a couple of days before I heard back from her. And those couple of days later, when she called back, she said to me, I couldn't do it. I couldn't go through with it. And I'm going to give this baby up for adoption. And I remember talking to her after the baby was born, and when the baby was put up for adoption. And a number of years later, I spoke to her. I had spoken to her in between, but a number of years later, she talked to me again and said, remember that conversation we had all those years ago? And she had informed me that she was able to find this child in that new home and at least establish a connection. And the thankfulness in her voice for allowing the child to be born, I can't even express it to you. It was a difficult thing, and this young lady had the courage and the fortitude to carry it through under duress when it messed up her plans, because there was something of greater value. So, folks, I guess that's what we're driving at here. We have a call. Let's take that call.
Welcome to Christian Questions. This is Jonathan and Rick. Who are we speaking with?
Good morning. You're speaking with Don.
Good morning, Don.
Good morning. Well, when I was a young teenager, I had to go to confirmation class because that was the parental decree. And I remember the minister telling all us little captives that people are born guilty. They're guilty right from birth, if not before. And that's why we need Jesus. That's why we got to get right with God. That's why we need Him, the minister. And This morning I hear people talking about innocent little babies. Well, are babies innocent or are they guilty? Which way do Christians want it? Apparently both ways.
Well, I think depending on the individual, the Christian individual you talk to, you might get different answers on that. I think you're right, okay? But the point is that the innocence I think that we're all referring to is the inability to decide for oneself, the inability to care for oneself, and the complete need for external input into one's life. And without that, you're destined to die because you have no ability whatsoever. I think that's part of the innocence that we're talking about, and part of the innocence that we are, so far, everybody on the program is sort of lining up to protect. I think that's what really the key point of innocence is here.
No, I think that's trying to confuse innocence with ineptitude and inability.
A child, Don, is not inept. They have not had experience to become capable. They're not capable because their life experience isn't there yet. That's not inept. That's innocence. I really see it that way. I don't understand.
Oh, I think you're turning words into pretzels again. I think that innocence means devoid of guilt, not devoid of ability or devoid of knowledge.
Okay, well, for the sake of moving forward here, so if it does, then what other word should I use that would describe what I'm talking about?
Well, I don't know what you're talking about, so you're going to have to solve that problem on your own.
Okay.
There it is.
Anything else, sir?
I can't for the life of me believe that life begins at conception. I think that an egg and a sperm united are a baby.
Okay.
That's absurd on the face of it.
Okay, so where do you think life begins, if I might ask?
I don't know.
Okay. Does it begin sometime before birth, though, do you think?
I think so.
Okay, so at some point during the pregnancy process, you would view that as a viable life that deserves protection. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
I suppose astronomers have cooked up a definition that they like as with respect to when does day begin. I don't know. I certainly view a day as beginning before the sun creeps up over the horizon, because to me daytime is when there's enough light to function outside,
mm-hmm.
and that happens before the sun creeps up over the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 5 minutes before, there's still enough light spilling through the atmosphere for people to go outside to see in colors and all the rest of it. So, I'll concede that the daytime begins before sunup. However, I don't think daytime begins a minute after midnight or 2 minutes after midnight.
Okay, no, I understand what you're saying.
And it's beyond me to know just which is right. And some astronomer wants to come up, or some meteorologist wants to come up with his definition. I'm willing to respect his right to do that.